What an asshole!
Podcasting from Basshole Studios in Hollywood, California.
Yo, what time is it?
You're listening to I'm a Basshole with Doug Bass. We've all been one.
He's an asshole.
So let's laugh about it. Now, here's your host, Doug Bass.
Hey everyone, my name's Doug Bass. Welcome to I'm a Basshole. This is the podcast where guests come on and they tell a story about a time in their life that they were an a-hole, and then we pick it apart and judge them, and they redeem themselves in a humorous way. It's all in good fun. I hope everyone is having a great day today. We got a great guest on the show today. Our guest today is David Vox Mullen. David, are you there? David.
I am here.
There he is.
Thank
All right.
you for having me, Doug. I'm very excited to be a part of the show.
There
With
he
an
is.
intro like that, I mean, who wouldn't be?
There he is. So David, just so our audience knows, David is a comedian. He is a singer, a songwriter, a improviser, a podcaster. It seems like you're doing it all. I am imagining from this list of things that you got going on here.
Don't forget a gentle lover.
Oh, okay, yeah, that wasn't in your resume, but yes, that seems like an important thing that everyone would want to be a part of, I would assume. So you're from the Chicago area originally, and you're currently there, correct?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes, I am Chicago born and raised. Haven't left.
I've been there several times. It's a great city. Always fun to do comedy and hang out there to see all the local bars and sports teams and all that stuff. So this is our first time really meeting and talking, I would say, but we're actually kind of working together, or we are working together, I would say, on comedian Michelle Traina's Divorce Diaries pilot and TV show. So are you excited about this? This is pretty cool. I'm finally, thankful that I get to talk to you a little bit about this, because Michelle has been such a good friend of mine over the years, and she's super funny, as we both know. Divorce Diaries. How did you get involved with, jumping on the producing team of Divorce Diaries?
Well, I mean, I initially met Michelle. She reached out to me because at the time I was the booker and promoting manager at a comedy club in Chicago that she was soliciting to put her one-woman show up. And, she gave me the pitch. I loved the concept. I am not divorced, but I'm a child of divorce, and divorce is all throughout my family. So I know what kind of toll it takes on people. And so I just thought it was amazing that Michelle was taking, her divorce and spinning it into not only something positive, but something that she could literally capitalize on.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And so we brought her out to Chicago. She did the show. It went really well. I loved the concept. And she had talked about, doing it for TV and stuff like that. And, I didn't think much of it. It was just, initial business and thank you and, good luck on your endeavors. And then like a year later, we had become friends, just kind of BSing back and forth. And she had asked me for some input on some stuff. And I gave, my opinion on things, and thought she was definitely going in the right direction. And then I believe she was working with a different producer who she just felt like nothing was happening, and she just wanted things to happen. And I had produced a couple of projects, myself, and I can appreciate, as any artist who is a creative, there's a fine line between wanting to do something and actually producing it and make it happen.
Right.
And I learned that was the big secret,
And
is just pulling the trigger and making things happen.
And that's
so
what
she
it
and I
takes,
talked about it. Yeah. And so she and I talked about it, and eventually she just kind of said, look, why don't, what would you be interested in producing the show? And I said, sure, why not? I had, my comedy club situation had changed. So I was, my calendar had kind of opened up, and I was like, let's do it. So, that was about what 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
And now we've got pretty much everything ready to shoot. We've got 6 episodes completely written. We're doing an investor pitch right now. So if anybody's out there
Amazing.
who's got thousands and thousands of dollars and they want to invest in a new comedy
fork
show,
your money
definitely
over
look
to
us up.
Divorce Diaries. It's a great,
Yeah,
it's a live show that Michelle Traina, comedian, does, and obviously we shot a pilot last summer, and now we are developing the entire series to be shot, and David's a big part of that. And you are the guy that's gonna make this happen. I feel like, because it's like, it's everyone has their hands in it, and everyone wants it to succeed and stuff. But yeah, it does take, the person who's like, no, we're pushing this through the the gate here.
Well, Michelle is to her,
She is the queen of it,
allure.
obviously.
She's
Yes, but
kind of all over the place, and so, which is great. It's a creative process, but she needs somebody who obviously understands that, but they can also streamline it
right,
so that it's
and
linear and
and producing
point A to point B,
is such
and
a
that's what we're doing. Yeah,
producing
yeah,
such a
producing.
hard job and an important job, and you need someone kind of that's like creative, but not necessarily like acting or on the project, or like really really business orientated, like to really shepherd the thing to the finish line almost.
Yeah.
um so
Yeah, no, I
you
mean that's the goal. Is to, I mean, at the end of the day, we want it out, and we want the public to see it, and we want people to enjoy it. Even if they enjoy it half as much as we've enjoyed writing it,
right,
then yeah,
then
then
that's a
it's
win.
good.
Yeah, exactly. So you started doing you were a singer, is that correct, in the band Slipstream? Is that
I was right after high school. Comedy wasn't anywhere near what I was expecting to do.
Mhm.
I was going to be a rock and roll star. At least that was my
So
dream.
you sing, that's
And
awesome.
I do. Yeah, I write music, I compose, I produce that as well. I still release music. Anybody who follows me knows that I just released an album this year of cover songs just to do it, and it
Nice.
was just a fun way to get stuff out. But yeah, I was with the band for a little over 10, 11 years. We toured nationally, and we had a slight modicum of success. But as all things, there's, for every successful recording artist, I'll show you 5 million who didn't make it,
Right,
and
no.
so it
Yeah.
was just, we were definitely in the higher top 20% of working musicians,
Mhm.
and it just got to the point where we got older, got married, had kids, and it becomes like, do I really want to be at a club till 3 a.m.
Right,
doing
yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
I don't smoke, coming home smelling like cigarettes, and just, it was awful.
Right.
And so, yeah, it just gets to a point where it's like it weighs out. We're not getting, these huge,
Yeah.
asks to be, MTV is dead. So it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, it comes
We're
to a
kind of a
point where
more
it's like,
modern group.
is it more of a hobby, or are we gonna
Yeah,
make a career out of this and
yeah,
schlepping
exactly.
away at it? Yeah, no, I get that.
So
Yeah.
I got into comedy, and comedy became the next phase of
Mhm.
my life, and that was the last 10, 12 years that I've been doing that, and yeah, I've just been having fun.
Nice. Now, you started doing improv and sketch before stand up, or stand up first?
I did improv and sketch first, which, some say that's good, some say that's bad. I think it's only helped me,
That's what I did. Yeah.
because now, when I do stand up, whenever I have material that I think isn't hitting, just freaking improvise at that point,
Right.
and then it becomes a whole new show.
Right.
And I could
Exactly.
do a one man show of improv by myself.
Right. And that's the interesting thing I've always thought, because like, yeah, I started doing sketch and improv at the Groundlings here in LA, and I dabbled with stand up before that, and then went back to stand up, after I was done with the sketch or whatever. And people always ask, well, how long have you been doing comedy, or stand up, or and it's like, well, comedy I've been doing for forever. But then it's like, well,
Yeah,
how about
yeah,
stand up? Well, stand up maybe 6 years. But it's comedy in general. But
yeah.
then they don't count that. They're like, well, that's different. And it's like, well, I think it all like kind of helps the other hand succeed almost. If you don't have that background, then you're going to be missing something from your act or whatever, I think.
Sounds like a bunch of judgmental bassholes.
Absolutely. Welcome to LA. But that's cool. So did you study at Second City in Chicago?
So I did not study at Second City in the building.
Mm,
However, every single one of those instructors taught me.
right. They
I
all
went
came out of
through
there. Yeah.
another organization. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I mean, they teach in different
Right.
facets. There's IO, there's Second City, there's Comedy Shrine, there's many different places where they were, and so every time they would teach, I would take their courses, and so I mean, I was trained under all of the greats.
Yeah.
Susan Messing, Laura Hall, Rick Hall, Michael Gelman. I mean, God. What's his, Tim O'Malley and Dave Rosinski and all these guys. I mean,
Dave
it's all the
Rosinski.
same people.
Dave Rosinski, I had as a teacher. I took Second City out
Yeah.
here in LA, and he was my first improv teacher here when I moved to LA. Yeah. He was teaching at the Second City, LA.
He's insane.
Yeah,
but in a good way.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like I didn't know what to expect every time I went in there, but he was a lot of fun. What was
in fact, I teach as well, and I definitely take elements of what I learned from him in my teaching because I like the way he
So you do teach? You teach sketch, stand up, or like what kind
of improv and stand up.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So yeah, you wear a lot of hats, which is great, and what a good producer needs to do, and a good creative needs to do. I think I'm similar in the same way. I like to dabble in a little bit of everything, and sometimes it's great and fulfilling, and then other times I'm like, well, I should have just stuck to one thing, and maybe I'd be further along on that or something. So it's always like
I'm never satisfied with one thing.
That's the thing. Yeah, like if you had to pick one thing, it's like, well, I like to direct. Well, I like to write. I like to do stand up. I like to act. Edit, film.
Yeah.
It's like it makes you a well-rounded performer in person. I think because if the only thing you did was the one thing, and that's all you liked, then I don't know, you might be boring.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I'll still release music, and so like I have fans of my musical career who are like, wow, you're really funny. And then I've got people who like me for comedy who are like, wow, you're really a good musician. And so like I have this weird dichotomy of people who can't, and there's this unspoken rule, which is garbage, that you can only be one thing. And it's like,
Right.
no, you can
You can
do
be
all
whatever you
different
want.
stuff. And there's
Yeah.
people who have done it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So
Of
I'm
course.
just putting stuff out and expressing myself, and we'll see what happens.
That's great. What was the comedy club that you were working for? Was that the one in Aurora?
Yeah, it was called the Comedy Shrine.
Comedy Shrine.
And
right.
they had been in business for 17 years. The owner had the building in downtown Naperville, and then a few years later he moved to a two theater building in Aurora, and then 2 years ago he moved to the Fox Valley Mall, where he got a giant 3 theater building, and of course the pandemic hit, and as far as I know, they've been shuttered since like May of this year, and I don't know if they're ever going to open back up again.
Yeah.
But obviously, after a pandemic, it was bad enough. But then after this hiatus, I've kind of just said, okay, I need to take care of me now.
Yeah,
So
no, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, a lot of these places have had a lot of trouble recovering from the pandemic, obviously, and it's still even the clubs in the big cities and stuff. It's like they're not like as full as they would be on a normal Thursday or Friday night sometimes.
Oh, I was booking before the pandemic and then post pandemic, and it was a night and day difference between how talent is booking and how the competition or different comedy clubs were booking. And as a comedian myself, I'm currently booking in different places, and it's so different than what we were dealing with before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Some things are better, some things are worse, but
yeah, it's kind of like you can't expect the crowd to be full all the time, and then there's some places that are still like like either they're packing them in or they're spreading people out here still, and it's like people are still getting COVID and all this shit, so it's like a lot of places don't care, some places do, and then it's like, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole different ball.
I thought COVID was over though, right? Isn't it done now?
It is done, but like I know like 4 people that got it this week, and they all like they're like, yeah, right? I'm out for work for 10 days, thank God, and I'm like, I guess it's still going around. I'm like, it's right, gone, right. But like when you do get it, it's like, all right, yeah, no work for 10 days. Yeah, no, I believe in it. It's like.
Well, I successfully dodged it for 2 years, and then I finally got it like a month ago, and I was like, okay, this sucks, and it did suck, believe me.
Yeah.
But I had all the the juice
Right.
and
Yeah. I got it when it was first brand new. When you were afraid to tell
oh
people that you had it, like, they thought it was like people thought it
right,
was like AIDS. It was like what? Whoa. Like it was like you really
right.
were. You chose who you just disclosed it to, and it was like people were like, I think everyone's gonna get it at some point. It's the flu.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad I got it. And what's funny is, I mean, when I got it, my whole house, there was no way to keep it clean, and
yeah,
my rest of my family, my wife, my kids, nobody got it, and I
really,
still don't understand how that happened.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
we all tested like every other day,
Some
and
people might just
I
be
got it,
immune
and I
to
was
it.
raging with it.
Yeah, and some people might be immune, or
Maybe,
or they have it and they don't test when they have it, and it just passes, and then they never knew that they had it. So there's a lot of those people too, I think.
maybe they gave it to me. Who
Right?
knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? So David Vox Mullen. What is the Vox? Explain the Vox? VOX.
So that is not my birth name.
No.
Obviously, it was a stage name that I had changed legally about, well, like almost 20 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, Before I got married, I didn't want to carry my birth name into my marriage, so I kind of waited out and said, okay, well, as a performer, this my stage name used to be just Vox in the
Right.
band. Clever, not really, but but that was it. And so when I had the name changed, I was like, well, let's just put it all together. And so David Vox Mullen became the name. And then once I started, you know, branding it, so to speak, and performing with it and creating a quote name for myself, um, I realized I can't change it back now.
Right. Right.
So I'm just
No,
stuck
it's
with it.
catchy. It works. I like it. It sticks out.
It's fun,
You
Vox
remember it.
is Latin for voice, so it
Right.
works on many levels.
That's cool. That's cool. And you have over 70,000 Instagram followers. That's pretty impressive. How does that happen?
I'll tell you
How does
what,
that
man.
happen? I can't. I'm like tired of like trying to
So
get people, and I'm just like, yeah,
Oh,
it's good enough.
well, and it's not as exciting as it sounds because my TikTok doesn't have any following. My Facebook has like a quarter of the following.
Right.
My Twitter, I don't even have 1,000 followers on Twitter. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's where I'm doing my best stuff. But
Right. It's almost
it's
like
just it is what it is.
it's like you pick one, and like either you're obviously you're a celebrity and all of them are like millions of followers, or like you have one that's like
Right.
succeeding more than the other or whatever.
Yeah, I still don't have the blue check, but that's okay.
See, that
No,
doesn't make
I
any
just,
sense to me.
my journeys have taken me down this very surreal, interesting entertainment road where I'm friends with certain musicians and certain actors, and
Mhm.
I have a huge like pro wrestling following because of I'm friends with some pro wrestlers, and so that becomes a thing.
Mm.
And so, just about 5 years ago, just a couple of things that I posted and videos that I did just blew up, and
Right.
so they go viral, and then it just people start following, and then I just started having all these followers, and it's
Right.
great, but um but again, it's superficial. I mean, for everything I post for my 70,000 followers, I might get 200, 300,
Right. Right. Of course.
comments, likes, like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No.
don't I don't value it or gauge it on anything like that.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I know people that like lose sleep over it. They're like, well, I got to get the blue check or this many followers, and it's like, do you really? Do you?
Well, I use the 70,000 usually like when I'm pitching like a comedy club, like, hey, you want to
Yeah.
bring me
Well,
out? Like,
that's
hey, I
yeah.
this following. Like, that's it. I
Well,
mean, because as a booker, that was something
that's
you
kind of
cared
what
about.
they're booking a lot of people off of now. It's like, well, if you have this many followers, then it's like, oh, yeah, then maybe we'll book you because people will show up or something like that. Which
Yeah.
is yeah, it's like these clubs are booking like TikTokers and all this shit that don't do comedy really, but all of a sudden they have like an hour slot on like a Friday night at a club, and it's like, oh yeah,
And they can fill it. I mean,
they can fill it,
it's
but like
whether
it's
or not
like
it's good. I don't know.
no, it's like I've worked some shows where I've seen like it packed because of an Instagram following or a TikTok or a podcast or whatever, and they've never performed live, and they're like, yeah, we're trying it out, and it's like, wow, all right.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I'm currently on tour with WWE legend Al Snow, who is doing his, first foray into comedy,
Mhm.
and he's 40 years of being on television. He's not afraid to get up and talk in front of an audience, but he's passionate about comedy, and that's when
Right.
the run very similar to the Michelle situation. I saw something deeper than just the on the surface stuff. Like there's a
Right.
bunch of wrestlers who are going out on the comedy club scene and they're just telling road stories, which is fine and fun. But Al is passionate about comedy. Like he writes jokes. If you
Yeah.
follow any of his social media, he's dropping probably 5, 10 jokes a day.
Hmm.
And that's just how passionate he is. And so we just had our first weekend last weekend, and we had a set plan of, okay, we'll do a little bit of stand up, a little bit of, improv, a little bit of road stories. Dude got up and he did probably a good 45 minutes straight of stand up material. And
Right.
I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Well,
So, I mean,
yeah. No, it
it's
can
great.
work. It can work if it's well crafted, and you are a natural performer in a way or whatever. It's like there's so many. I like to think that there's so many different avenues and venues for comedy now more than ever, because you do have your traditional stand up where obviously they're honing their half hour, and then there's also like storytellers, then there's also improvisers, now there's like podcasters that are doing shows that are in comedy but maybe not necessarily stand up, but like they've dabbled in it or whatever, and they could do a show, or there's all kinds of things
It's,
you can do.
it's all entertainment. I
Yeah.
mean, if we can all accept that, then I think everybody will be a lot nicer to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of being nicer to people, this is the I'm a Basshole show. So this is where guests do come on, and they talk about a time in their life that they may have been an a-hole. It can be an isolated incident. It can be maybe a chunk of time in your life. Maybe you're one right now and you're proud of it. You wear it with a badge. Anything along those lines. Do you have a story that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Well, I mean, I have many stories, but definitely I will share one, and it's more of an unintentional asshole. Like I'm
Mhm.
not, I'm an accidental asshole, if that makes
That's
sense.
good. That's an accidental
Um,
asshole. I like that.
Accidental asshole, yeah, that's probably gonna be my next comedy album. But so here's the story. So a few years back, we were gonna go see the Police. Sting reunited with the Police,
Nice.
and they were gonna do a tour. And I had never gotten to see them as a group. I love big Sting fan, big Police fan.
Hmm.
And being a Chicagoan, they were performing at Wrigley Field where the Cubs play.
Right.
I am a White Sox fan, so there is civil war between us here, but. So I promptly put on my White Sox jersey. I figured if I have to go to Wrigley Field, I'm gonna wear my White Sox jersey
Oh,
just because.
yeah.
But that was me intentionally being an asshole, but or a basshole. But the accidental situation was we were gonna go take the L, the CTA,
Hmm.
and well, those are two different things, but the train. And we went to the station, and as we were walking into the station, I saw. I thought he was a homeless person, but he was clearly blind, and he
Hmm.
was sitting like on the ground out in front of the station, and he's just chilling there, whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a homeless guy. He's probably playing blind or whatever to get sympathy or whatever, because that was I'm an asshole, and I went inside not thinking much about it, and then I see this woman, Mary. I know her name because I talked to her, and she is also blind,
Hmm.
and she is calling the name John out. John. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So I approached her thinking I'll be the superhero, and I said, excuse me, ma'am, can I help you? And she said, I'm supposed to meet my friend John here, and he's also blind.
Hmm.
I said, okay, thinking, okay, this is, two blind people trying to find each other literally in a crowded public space. I mean,
So it was a blind
that's
date.
right, right. It was a
Yeah,
blind
sorry,
date.
horrible joke.
So I wish I would have thought of that. So it's okay. It's your show. So then, so,
We got nothing
so
but
we,
dad
went- so
jokes on this show for someone who's not a dad.
So I said, don't worry, I'll find him. I think I know where he's at. So I went back out in front, and I went back to the what I thought was a homeless man, and I said, excuse me, is your name John? And he says, yes. I said, oh, you were trying to meet Mary here? And he said, yes. I said, well, Mary's inside. she's been looking for you. And he just sighed, like, really, dude? And I realized that was probably the dumbest, most asshole thing I could say to a blind guy.
Just a poor
Hey,
choice
she's
of
looking for you. No, he
words.
wasn't looking. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was bad. It was bad.
I mean, but it's the
Felt like an
kind of
asshole.
it's the kind of thing that, like, I mean, I think in general we would say that, every day it's just natural to say, yeah, someone's looking for you, someone's looking, and it's like,
Well, we would because we can see.
yeah, but it's yes,
But
but it's also like a phrase that people that you know everyday people use, I would say,
yeah,
but like, yeah, it's like you're not. How often do you run into a
it was.
blind couple or person that you have to think about what you're saying and then remember, oh, they're blind,
I
so they
would
can't
imagine
look.
they run into things a lot,
Yeah,
but
that's true. Yeah. So what would you have said? Like searching? You can't even, is that bad too? Mary's searching
I
for you.
mean, I should have just stayed with "She's been waiting for you
She's been
inside,"
waiting.
but
She's been waiting for you, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but she's looking for you.
She's
She couldn't
been
see you
she's
anywhere.
been using her cane to see if you're there. I don't know. Yeah, it's like,
Echolocation.
yeah, it's like, how do you yeah, it's like, well, that's hard. I mean, yeah, it's kind of an asshole thing, but it's not your norm, I would say, because
Yeah.
you're not in these people's lives every day where you have to be, aware of, I have a blind friend or a blind roommate, or, my spouse is blind, so I'm not going to say certain things or whatever. It's like, it's not part of your world, everyday world.
Yeah, like I said, accidental asshole.
Accidental asshole. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah. And then this guy John was just like, rolling his eyes. We shouldn't talk about their
Yeah, I
eyes anymore.
mean, which is which is unfortunate because nobody could appreciate it. In fact, his eyes were rolling, I think, before, but he had
Yeah,
glasses on, so I don't
yeah, you can't tell.
know.
Yeah,
We're just devolving terribly, but
yeah, we're really
yeah, I
we're
mean, it
really
was.
digging the asshole hole right now, like, because it's just like, like if this was a deaf
Yeah,
couple,
it
if
was
this
an
was a deaf
uncomfortable
couple and you
situation.
said like, yeah, can you hear me or whatever, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
sorry,
they
my
obviously
my
weren't going to
Amazon
see the
Echo
police.
just went off for some reason and said something to me. I don't even know what it said, but I was like, who the hell's in my house?
Do you have your Amazon set up for like the red alert thing?
I don't even know. What is the red alert? What is that?
Oh my gosh, you've got to YouTube it. It's awesome. I did it to mine. You say like Alexa, red alert. I don't want to say it too loud because it'll blow. I have smart lights.
Oh yeah, I have a
So
couple of
like
those. Yeah.
yeah, the Wi-Fi lights. So my house, the lights turn all red and it
Oh,
blasts Miserlou from Pulp Fiction, and
oh,
it's
that's
like
cool.
like intruder alert. And it's funny.
I
It's
do
one of
have
these
them
things
set
where
up. I have them set up for, like, I think if I say like Alexa movie time or something like that, like the lights turn blue, and then like some kind of cinematic score comes on because I have like a projector or whatever. So then I could like pull down the screen or something like that. Like, this is when I was
that's
like,
fun.
I have
Yeah.
time to, like, yeah, pimp out my apartment. But then, like, I would say,
That's what I did during the pandemic.
yeah, I would say I'm really bad using Alexa. Like, I'm gonna say it quietly, but yeah, I'm really bad at, like, I forget I have it, and it's like, yeah, I'll turn on the
Yeah.
lights normally by myself, or I'll be like, I'll look up the temperature, or I know some people, like, that's all they use is this thing, and it's like, Alexa this, Alexa that, and I'm just like, man,
I'm
if I use it
trying
once a
to.
week, I'm like, I'm proud of myself.
So I'll ask it to turn lights on and off, and I'll ask it about the weather, like
Hmm.
what's the weather right now or what's it going to be tomorrow. I try to utilize it for what I'm paying for,
Right?
but yeah, like oh, and then the other thing is if I get an Amazon package, it does the bloop
Yeah, it
noise or
tells you
whatever. I'm
it's
like, oh,
here
I
or
got a
something like
package.
that.
But yeah, other than that, it just scares the shit out
I
of me
just
when it
think I'm
starts talking to me.
old because it's like I'm like, man, if I, if you grew up with it, you're normal, like, it's like, oh, I need to talk to this thing to find out this and find out that and schedule this or whatever. But like, I don't know, this thing's only been around for like what, 5 years or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I'm an '80s kid, so it's
same
like
here. So
this is the robots are coming for us
I'm
or
like,
something,
as much as like I wanted these things to be around when I was like a teen, I'm like, now they're here, and I'm like, it's just easier for me to type it in and look it up, or
Oh yeah, yeah, electric cars and
yeah.
everything automated. I'm terrified. I'm
Yeah,
terrified.
it's like when all this stuff does arrive, it's gonna be like, I think I'd rather just watch the movie that had it in it.
Right?
Instead
Yeah,
of,
that's what I keep trying to tell my kids who are like, "Oh, what are you afraid of?" I'm like, "We saw the movies.
yeah,
We know what
it
happened."
doesn't end well.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
freaking Terminator.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. All right, well, accidental asshole. That's a good story. That's a good story. Do you have another one, a quick one, or anything like that you want to do?
I have another kind of accidental asshole thing. It's more of a foot and mouth thing, but it's definitely embarrassing. I grew up in Tinley Park, Illinois, which is also where
Sorry.
where wrestling
There
star.
goes my dog, ruining the podcast as normal
Oh, that's
every
good.
week. Every week, she ruins the
Do people
podcast.
drink when the dogs bark?
I literally. Hey, Penny, you're gonna make me edit
Come
this,
on.
and I don't have the time for that. Hold on one second.
Wow,
Penny.
what a basshole.
She really is. She's like the number one basshole is my dog. Hey, will you go? I'm gonna put you in your crate if you don't do that. All right. See, I forgot to put them away. That's the one thing I usually do. I just was saying, like, as long as I'm doing this podcast, there's gonna be a damn dog barking on it every time.
Yeah.
So
No, I got dogs too, and when I do podcasts,
oh
it's
my
the same
god,
thing.
do you edit them out or you just leave it in?
It depends. If the organic flow of conversation works with them, like right now, I don't think there's any problem with it.
No,
So,
I'm gonna leave it in. Like it's kind of like if I usually I will put her in the other room, but I forgot to do it today. But like there's like the one podcast I did, they were all quiet. It was like at night, so they were kind of tired or whatever. But like yeah, it's like literally every time, like if I have people over here in the studio, that kind of thing, it's like they all start going nuts, and I'm just like, all right, people just have to accept. It looks like a studio, but I got dogs here, and I'm a dog walker. So as long as
there ain't nothing wrong.
there's nothing wrong with
Ain't
it,
nothing
but
wrong with that.
it makes it more, human. I would say, just to have bullshit going on
Or
in the
humane.
background. Humane society. All right, sorry. Go back to what you're saying.
That's fine. You got to play Sarah McLachlan underneath it. All.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So when I was a kid, I grew up in Tinley Park, Crestwood, Oak Forest, south suburbs of Chicago, and one of our buddies, we were all into professional wrestling. We loved WWF back then, and we would watch SummerSlam, and we'd all go out in the backyard and try to beat the shit out of each other. And in another life, I would have been a wrestler, but it just hurt too much, and I wasn't into it. And
Maybe you can still do it. Maybe you could be like Andy Kaufman.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, I've definitely done some stuff in the ring, but that's a whole nother conversation. But one of the guys that I used to pretend wrestle with was Phil Brooks, who famously became known as CM Punk. You may or may not have heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I'm not familiar, but yes.
Okay, well, WWE, AEW, UFC, he's very loudmouth and outspoken.
Got it.
He's an asshole. You should
He's
get
an
him
asshole.
on your show. But we grew up and we were, we would wrestle in the backyard of his house. We weren't like friends. We were just acquaintances or whatever. It was like 10 of us who would do this every weekend. And so life went on. I got out of touch with him. He obviously blew up and became this huge, famous wrestling champion. And he was at a Comic-Con that I was at.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just happenstance, I was at a booth next to his. So I walked up to him and I said, and it's different in my head, but I said, "Hey, you may or may not remember me, but we used to fool around in your backyard." And he just looked at me and he goes, "What the fuck did you just say to me?" And
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
really
yeah,
have poor choice of words sometimes with some
I
people.
do.
Right?
I was like, I said that definitely could have been said different. It's like, yeah, you could have definitely said that better. He was a good sport, he was fine, but it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, I'm the accidental asshole. I'm almost living like a Larry David life.
Yes. Oh, I love Larry David. I mean, that's like me. Every day I walk outside, someone.
The thing about Larry is he gets angry. If you don't understand what he screws up.
I get a little angry. I'm a little bit more like him, but yeah, like this is like accidental foot and mouth is a yeah. Maybe you have the foot and mouth syndrome or something if that exists. I don't know.
Yeah, foot, mouth, asshole.
Yeah,
Asshole, foot, mouth.
foot mouth asshole disease, foot in mouth disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, yeah, like that's almost like something. Like we say, yeah, we used to fool around. It's like, oh wait, what? Like, like as an adult, I feel like an 80-year-old person would think fooling around means, yeah, like, oh, you guys are playing around, but
Yeah,
like,
we were just goofing off.
yeah, goofing off, fooling around,
Probably should have just said
in the yard.
backyard wrestle.
In the yard, maybe is what makes it sound a little bit more inappropriate or weird.
In your backyard.
in your backyard, yeah. Yeah.
Needless to say, it's definitely a part of my routine. So I
right.
make money
Well, that's
on that.
pretty. See, there you go. So you get a good material out of it. Get a good bit. Yeah. That's funny though. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like I've definitely said stuff. I think at times where it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But sometimes it just comes out, and especially when you're doing comedy or podcasting or whatever, it's like you're talking nonstop. So,
Well, when I was in high school, I was constantly bullied and picked on, and got into fights and whatever. And these guys would just start punching me and would say things like shut up, just say one more thing, and it's like I wanted to do that, but something brilliant would just pop into my head and I had to say it. It was such sarcasm, and
Yeah.
I was constantly destroyed because I would just say that, because these are like 14-year-old kids, 15-year-old
Oh,
kids.
yeah.
They don't know how to handle somebody who just cuts them to the quick
no,
verbally. So they
Yeah.
just punch you. It's like, okay, yeah, but
verbal
I still
joke
won.
is quicker than a punch sometimes to the heart or the
Yeah.
gut,
Oh,
the soul.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had that problem my whole life.
Well, I mean, that's a good problem to have, I think, because like you're quick witted, and that's a good skill. A lot of people don't have it. So,
Yes.
But
Yes.
all right, so those are good some good asshole stories. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, like you foot in the mouth kind of asshole, accidental asshole. Nothing too extreme. It's a hiccup kind of thing, but yeah, it's an embarrassing moment that you recover from quickly.
I mean, for the most part, I'm not an asshole. Like I want to be a good person.
Most people are not, like, and it's like when I ask people to come on the show, they're like, well, I can't be on that show. I'm not an asshole. I'm like, I'm not saying you are an asshole. It's just like, it's something you may have done that was out of misjudgment. Like, yeah, like saying something or doing something, like, it's part of life. It's part of learning and becoming who you are, who you don't want to be anymore. It's almost like it's life's journey. You're bound to be an asshole. You're not a normal person if you haven't been one at some point.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if anything, assholism is really just choosing yourself before anybody else at an opportune time.
But then there's people that are like true assholes, and it's like I think I interviewed like some criminals at one point, and I was like, these people are real assholes. Like,
Well, yeah, sure.
It's like, so you also do a podcast, is that true?
I do. I started back in 2009.
Oh wow, that was like the birth of podcasting almost.
Yeah,
right?
it was like me and Mark Maron. And we I got a couple of friends. We started doing a podcast about a TV series called Flash Forward on ABC. It was kind of like supposed to be this next big sci-fi drama after Lost was going to be over.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so, because everybody loved Lost. I mean, I enjoyed that show until the end, but whatever. So we thought, okay, well, I want to do a podcast about this new show that's coming. And so I got my friends and we started producing it, and it started getting tons of downloads, and the creators of the show were listening to it. And so they were reaching out to us and saying, let's get interviews. And they got us interviews with the stars of the show.
Oh, nice.
And a bunch of crazy stuff. So it was a lot of fun. So we had this huge following, and then ABC canceled that show after one season. So then it became this thing where I had bought this website domain, and I had all these listeners, and it was like, well, what do I do? So I was like, okay, well, I'll try another show. So then I went to an NBC show called The Event. Same experience. NBC was sending me the lead actors. It was starring Jason Ritter, John Ritter's son, Jason, and we did a couple of podcasts together, and it was a lot of fun. And so I was like, wow, this is great. Like, this has really taken off. And then NBC canceled that show after one season. So it started getting to a point where people were starting to email me asking me not to do podcasts about certain shows because they were afraid I was the kiss of death.
Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Wow, that's
so
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a bunch of my podcaster friends and let's do an entire network.
Mhm.
And so I created the DVMPE, which was the David Vox Mullen podcast empire.
Nice.
And we had about 15 to 20 podcasts that next TV season. And we did a bunch of TV shows. And I don't think out of all of those, I don't think like maybe 2 of them got canceled. So we started doing these huge podcasts every week. And then we started having competition with groups like AfterBuzz and all these other Maria Menounos
Right.
was nobody until she started competing with me. But she was in LA, I was in Chicago, so it was easier for her to get people in the studio.
Right.
And I'm not bitter, but it just turned into this huge monster thing. And so then I started getting more and more people who were reaching out going, hey, I want to do a podcast. I want to do a podcast. And so finally it got to a point where I turned it into what is now the DVMPE, which is the David Vox Mullen production empire. And we produce and distribute over 150 different podcasts currently.
Nice.
All over the world, and we've gotten over 10 million downloads and a lot of subscribers, and it's just been a wonderful thing. And so it turned into this very small but slightly profitable business,
Right.
Which I'm very proud of. I mean, I
Yeah,
literally
for sure.
built
No,
that.
that's awesome. Yeah, getting in on the ground running of anything like
Yeah.
that is always fascinating to me. Because now everyone has a podcast, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the market is oversaturated yet. I mean, it's still young, but it's like
I would argue that it is oversaturated, like anything,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's still the cream is always going to rise to the top.
Yeah.
You can have a million podcasts, and 2% of them are the ones that everybody listens to.
right.
So, as long as you're good and entertaining and talented, you got to find your niche audience, and once you've done that, just serve that audience. And I mean, look at Joe Rogan. I mean,
I know,
my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Finds his audience, serves his audience, and got a huge payday for that.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, and it's
Whether
like
you agree with them or disagree with them, it doesn't matter.
doesn't
I
matter.
don't really
It doesn't
listen to
matter.
it,
It's entertainment, and it's like
God
it's
bless
like
the guy.
people want to tune in and like listen and watch or whatever. And it's and now obviously a lot of celebrities are doing them, so it's become another job for them to make quick money on, and it's like all right.
Yeah, no, I mean you can definitely tell the difference between people who are doing it for the money and people who are doing it because they're passionate about connecting with an audience.
Right.
And I think the ones who connect with the audience, those are the ones that seem to do better. I mean, I'm a big Mark Maron fan. I've loved his show since the beginning, and he's just a crotchety old man who talks to people, which I love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's his own person, and it's always entertaining to listen to it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what your niche is, you can find something, which is great, and they're fun to do. If anything, even if you don't make money from them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
All right. Well, this has been super fun. Is there anything else you want to pitch that you got coming up? Any shows, anything like that?
I mean, I'm on the road right now with Al Snow doing comedy. So if you like comedy and you like wrestling, and if you like Al and you want to see Al do comedy and me, fool around with him, then
that's
come
the
see us.
late
We're
show.
gonna be-
We'll have the fooling around. I
Right,
guess,
right.
Yeah.
We'll be in your city. We're going to be in Memphis. We're going to be in Ohio. We're going to be in the Hard Rock Cafe in Pittsburgh. We're going to be, just all over. So davidvoxmullen.com. You can click on my album there, and it takes you to my links with all my stuff. And the tour is there, and my merch is there, and all my stuff is there.
Very cool.
Follow me.
Follow
me on Twitter.
Follow David Vox Mullen on Twitter, not Instagram. Well, follow both, but he's got his Instagram taken care of for the time being. I think give his Twitter a little love, and his Facebook and YouTube or whatever else.
TikTok and everything
TikTok,
else.
I'm horrible at the TikTok. I got to get better at that. But
I love it. I came from before TikTok. The precursor to TikTok was Vine.
Yeah, I dabble with Vine when that was around. Yeah,
a lot of people didn't understand it. It was awesome for somebody like me. I do a lot of impressions.
Oh yeah, you do impression. What's an impression? Do a quick impression. What's your best impression?
Well, quite frankly, a lot of people love Trump. Okay, a lot of people. He's not making people happy right now. I don't know why. A lot of people have a lot of things to say. Okay, so many people, and
Trump.
he's tremendous. Really, he's a great impression. I love doing. I'm probably the best at doing it. Him. Anybody else does it is not as good. Okay. Uh, Probably my most high-paying impression. Yeah, no, seriously, I
Nice.
got paid a ton of money to do Donald Trump for like 20 minutes
At like
for
a
some
live show.
highfalutin rich thing. Yeah. Oh my God, it was great. It
Oh,
was
that's
great.
awesome. That's awesome.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, a
and
lot of
yeah,
comedians, I think, secretly want him to come back and be president just because their impressions were so popular.
I am not a fan of Donald Trump, but
No,
I am a fan of him running again.
there was. Yeah, you see, that's the yeah. At least let him run again because then everyone's impression. A lot of people do the Trump impression. That's a very good Trump impression. A lot of people
Well,
do
I was doing it. I mean, there's
before.
probably maybe like
Yeah,
5 to 10 people worldwide who was doing Trump to the degree that I was doing it, and
yeah.
then
Every
naturally,
now
once you become president, I mean,
everyone does it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good go-to, impression to have in your back pocket. I would say, super fun. So impressions are always fun. I love
oh, I
dabbling.
love them. I
I
love
love
them.
dabbling in them.
You got to salt and pepper them though. If it's all impressions,
No,
it's dead.
well, either that or
You know,
you're label yourself as an impressionist, and that's your thing,
yeah, exactly. I'm
which
not
is
Rich
fine.
Little.
No,
I love Rich Little, but I'm
yeah.
not Rich Little.
There's a lot of people that are
Or
just doing
Frank
impressions, and it's like yeah, they're great, for like an SNL kind of thing, or
yeah.
a 30-minute show
I
if you can.
literally I have like maybe like 5 minutes of my stand up. I do impressions and then
Mhm.
I get away from it
Yeah.
because I don't want to be pigeonholed.
No,
Because I've seen people get pigeonholed with that.
yeah, I have like two impressions I can do, and like I still don't know exactly how to incorporate them into my stand-up act because it's like
Well, what are they? I got to hear them now.
I do Nicolas Cage, so pretty much it'll just be like, yeah, well, I'm on this podcast, and I'm not sure what to do besides maybe curse, like fuck. So that's like my
Love
Nicolas
it.
Cage.
That's a good one. That's
It's a
really
good
good.
one. It's a good one. I don't, but here's the thing. I was doing Nicolas Cage since college, pretty much, and then then he became this joke meme of himself, and then everyone kind of started
Yeah.
dabbling and doing impressions of him. So now
Dude,
it's
isn't
like
that the thing?
it's a thing.
I
It's like
mean, when I
I
was
have
in,
tapes from me doing him back in 2000 or whatever, and it's like,
yeah, when I was in high school, I was doing Christopher Walken before
oh yeah,
anybody was. I
that's
swear to
another
God,
oversaturated
before
impression of walking.
anybody was doing it. I
Yeah.
won't do them anymore because
Too many people
everybody
do
does
them.
it.
Too many people do. I can't say how many I've gone to so many comedy shows and stuff. I always see someone doing Christopher Walken, and I'm just like, all right, yes, it's good. You can do them, but do it at a party. I don't know. I'm like, why is this still? Like, 'cause I remember watching like Jay Moore do them back in the day and stuff, and I was just
Oh
like,
yeah. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like I'm like every comedian does Christopher Walken now. I feel like, yeah.
Everybody figured out the tonality and the pitch and the timbre and the rhythm of his voice, and so now everybody does it.
Yeah, but I'm
But
surprised it still works almost because it's like, I mean, I guess the general audience may not see it as
it's
often, but as a
so
comic, I'm always
unique.
like, oh, another Christopher Walken impersonator. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. That's how I feel.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, all right. And then the other one I've done is like John Lovitz. I'll do like a John Lovitz impression and be like, "Hello, I'm John Lovitz. This stinks."
That's freaking spot on.
So those
dude.
are like
That is
those are
great.
the two. And then I've dabbled with some others, but they need some work. I need to practice them if I'm really gonna put them out there.
I love it.
But I don't know how. I haven't figured out how to do them in my stand up yet. Like, cause it's like,
just go on TikTok
yeah,
and just do 15-second video clips of you doing impressions. You'll
Yeah.
have
you'll get more
followers.
views. Yeah, I should do that. That's a
I
good.
would follow you.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good piece of advice. Maybe I will. I should do my Nick Cage. I should bring him back and do that because I used to
That's
do
a
like
good.
I used
I've
to do
heard
like
people do
spoof.
Nick Cage, and I mean, I even tried. I don't think I'm as good as you. Like,
I did
yeah, Nick Cage.
last
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
I did do some like TikTok things. I did like masterclass, like those masterclass things you could sign up for. I was like,
Yeah.
at one point, I was like, everyone has a master class now. All of a sudden, like every fucking celebrity or whatever. So I was like, yeah, there should be like, yeah, Nicolas Cage does a master class. Donald Trump does. It's like I was like having like friends do impressions of like. So I did like the Nick Cage one. It was like how to invest or how to lose all your money or something like that. take my master
love it.
class, and it was just like simple. Yeah, so like I need to start doing more of that stuff. But yes, it's like
I want you to do it.
I'm gonna
really
do it.
want
I'm
you
gonna
to do
take
it.
your
I wanna
advice
see it.
and do a TikTok. I'll do a TikTok. I'll do one TikTok out of Nick Cage.
Yes.
But yeah, I gotta figure out the stand up set, how to do it in, because like you know what's interesting, like sometimes you try that, like, you know, I live in LA, so you try like an impression like that in LA show, and people are like, who gives a shit? But then you go on the road and do it, and people are like, oh, this is great, they love it, you know, like it's
Chicago it's the same thing. Chicago is very similar to LA. LA is definitely a different animal, but in Chicagoland, we see so much.
Yeah.
And so you really have to kind of punch through the noise to really grab people in the city.
Right.
Outside of the city, I'll do. Oh, there's my dog's barking now.
Yeah, right.
Outside of the city, you know, stuff that doesn't work in the city kills on the road.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, in the city. I mean, but that's good though. I mean, that's good for you. It's good for me. We're both in super high intense markets where it forces us to be funnier than.
It forces you to think out of the box, something different, you know, get people to the shows and enjoy themselves and try new things, you know, write new stuff, keep exploring.
Or just be like Louis C.K. and whip your dick out.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever.
That's the last resort option, I think. That's before you leave LA or New York, Chicago, you just start masturbating in front of everyone. And it won't work for us, unfortunately. All right. Well, this has been super fun. David Vox Mullen, thanks for joining us on the I'm a Basshole podcast. I'm sure that I know we're working together on this Divorce Diaries project, and I'm sure we'll meet each other at some point. I don't know when, but I'm sure down the pipeline.
Well, when we go into production, I'm sure we'll see you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, during production. But, and then if I get out to Chicago, I will definitely hit you up, because it's probably been 2 years since I've been there, and I definitely want to go back at some point. And
it's a great city, but do it before it gets winter time.
I've been there twice in the winter and then once in the summer. So yeah, I know. I went. Fun. Yeah.
Autumn is actually one of my favorite seasons in Chicago. It's beautiful.
I kind of like. I don't mind going. See, I didn't mind going to Chicago in the winter because I knew I was coming back to LA. So I was like, true. It's almost like I'm always like stuck here in LA, and it's like I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go somewhere wintry, like for like 4 days, you know, because it's like a treat almost. It's like, oh, Snowland, okay.
How bad is it in LA right now? Is it like $3 million for like a closet?
As far as rent,
yeah.
I mean, it went down a little bit during pandemic, but now it's back up. I'd say like there was probably a good 8 to 10 months where like if you moved during that time, you could get a good deal. And I actually moved and I got a good deal in a good neighborhood, so like took advantage of that. But yeah, I would say it's back to kind of, you know, if you want a studio, it's expensive. You know,
I just hate Chicago weather. I have a single family home outside of Chicago. It's it's a lovely home, but like 4 bedrooms. But in LA, I might get a loft. I mean, it's awful.
It's. I mean, you either that or you have to move. You really have to move outside of LA. Proper. It's like you got to move an hour outside of the city and then drive in. And
I just want to get away from Chicago winters. I hate them. I'm looking at maybe Florida.
Florida is a smart move. My parents live in New Jersey half the year, and they live in Florida the other half of the year. So
snowbirds.
We
were thinking of doing that.
They live in Naples, Florida, and I usually go there at least once a year. It's lovely. A lot of older people and golf and whatever floats your boat.
But just move slower than me.
But there are some great beaches and stuff, and even on the other side of Florida, there's some nice spots and stuff like that. You just have to ignore the Florida of it, the Floridian,
It is interesting.
That come with it.
I certainly see a heck of a lot of it.
Yeah, I think if you find your niche of people there, and like you can have like a lovely life living there, but then you just ignore the trailer trash stories that come.
The craziness that surrounds it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but it's gonna be anywhere.
We got plenty of that in Illinois too, though.
We got it in here in California. It's like it's everywhere. You're not gonna escape it unless you live on some island somewhere with no one around.
Right.
But, or leave the country. I don't know.
Yeah. Next stop, the Bahamas.
Bahamas, yeah, exactly. Mexico, that's where I'll be.
Yeah, if America fell, I've said to my wife, I said, if this country falls apart, from Civil War or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the Caribbean. I'm done.
Yeah, I've thought about like I can easily get to Mexico from here, and it's definitely an option. It's cheaper too. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll see what happens. Until then, we'll stick around and we'll do our comedy shows and TV pilots and whatever.
I'm gonna die in Chicago. That's how it is. I'm just gonna die here. That's all. I'm never getting away.
Just have your White Sox jersey on.
That's right. That's right.
Go Sox, right? All right.
Yeah, go Sox.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, David, thanks for being on the show. You can catch David on tour. Follow him on all the social media platforms. Oh, there's only one way we usually end this show, and it's by saying, actually, also, do you have anyone you want to nominate to be on the show that you think may have been a basshole at some point?
Well, there is if you're interested in talking to somebody in the professional wrestling industry, I can recommend and nominate Ken Anderson from WWE and TNA and
Ken Anderson.
He is famously an asshole.
Perfect.
That is his gimmick and pseudo trademark. So I'll call him up and see if he wants to be an asshole on your show.
Perfect. We'd love to have him. If he's an asshole and he's got a good story and he's game for it with a sense of humor, he's always welcome.
Oh yeah,
all right, awesome.
He's got him.
Perfect. Perfect. So yeah, we'll reach out to him. And then the only way we end the show is just by saying your name and saying that you are a basshole.
Well, I am David Vox Mullen, and I am proud to admit that I am a basshole.
There you go, folks. David Vox Mullen. He's a basshole, but he came on the show and redeemed himself, so he can now go live his life asshole free, if that's an expression.
Free my asshole.
There you go. All right, David, thanks so much for coming on. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, follow the podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix. Go to the website, bassholeshow.com. Instagram is @bassholeshow or @bassholepodcast. Follow all those things. And remember, folks, don't be a basshole, but if you are, laugh about it. Ciao.
You've been listening to I'm a Basshole with Doug Bass. Follow us on Instagram @Basshole Show. Think you deserve to be on the show? Email us at contact@bassholeshow.com and visit our website at www.bassholeshow.com and get the latest information. Subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast fix. And don't miss the full videos on YouTube. Remember, don't be a basshole, but if you are, laugh about it. We'll see you next time.